First of all, we're really happy to be here. Guys have played well through 2 games. I think they're excited to play an excellent UConn team. And, we had a good practice yesterday, a good practice today. Guys are in good spirits and looking forward to competing tomorrow.
Okay, we'll take questions from media in the room. Please raise your hand. We'll have a microphone to you.
Oh, okay. Hey, Eric, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. How you doing? Had kind of a multi-layered question on Nick. He obviously has had some rough shooting games of late. How do you think he's doing? Emotionally, physically, mentally. What do you expect from him tomorrow? And how important is it for you guys to get him going offensively?
Yeah, I mean, Nick's one of the most talented players in the country, and he's had some big games for us, and he's been in a tough situation in and out of the lineup with injuries, and it's not easy for any player to do, let alone when a team's on a tournament run. But yeah, we'd certainly love Nick to have a big game, and but it's like I said, I mean, he's been in and out of the lineup. It's hard to do for any player, let alone someone that's in their freshman year.
How do you think he's doing emotionally?
I mean, he's been great in practice. He was bouncing around the last 2 days, and I think he's excited to get another opportunity to play, just as we all are.
Okay, right here in the middle.
Coach Kyle Kinsey, this is on behalf of the San Diego Union Tribune. I was actually going to ask, I read the story about your father wanting at one point to manage the Padres and you going to games growing up as a kid. Was there anything about spending that time with your father that you've managed to incorporate into your coaching? And what did throwing out the first pitch at the Pods game this year mean to you?
Throwing out the first pitch at the Padre game is, one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, because I have the MLB package and watch every Padre game, which that's a long baseball season, and there's a time difference. My wife is not happy that I love the Padres so much, but I mean, from my dad, too much to remember. In San Diego, one of the first things that happened when we moved there is he met with Paul Brown, who's a former Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals coach, owner. And I remember them sitting at the dinner table talking for what seemed like, to me, a couple hours. And they were talking about the first meeting my dad was going to have with the San Diego Sails, which was an ABA team, because my dad had been a college coach his whole life, and the importance of how an NBA player / NFL player, their antennas are up on everything you said, and just the preparation that was needed for every meeting. So those are some of my early memories.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, Dom Amore from the Hartford Courant. How do you kind of analyze or size up Jordan Hawkins, particularly his shooting mechanics? What do you see when you've watched him on film?
Yeah, one of the best pure shooters in college basketball. He's got a quick release. He's got a confident release. Doesn't need bunch of dribbles. Can catch and shoot. Can also create a little off the bounce. You can't give him let him have separation. You've got to ID him as early as possible. And try to not to let him get any catch and shoot right away shots. Coach Hurley does a great job of running multiple things for him off baseline, out of bound, triple screens, and staggered wheel action stuff. And the thing is, he does a great job of constantly moving. He's not a guy that's stationary. When the ball moves, he moves. So he's a difficult cover because of all those reasons.
Dave Borges, Hearst, Connecticut Media. Eric, how important has the transfer portal been for you building your roster over the past few years? It seems like you've done a very good job with that, and then you kind of juxtapose that against UConn, which certainly uses the portal, but maybe not as much as a lot of other programs.
Well, I promise I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the transfer portal. I kind of felt like at Nevada we were at the forefront of the transfer portal. Really interesting, because 8 years ago, when somebody was transferring, the process was a lot different. You had to go through your compliance office, and there was a lot of paperwork involved. and I can promise you there was not much competition. The competition now for transfers is as fierce as any recruiting landscape that you could be a part of. But it was not that way for 3 years, especially because guys had to sit out. I know that for a fact that I would never have been the coach at Arkansas if it wasn't for transfers and guys like Cody and Caleb Martin and Kendall Stevens and guys that had transferred from Power 5 schools to the Mountain West. And certainly UConn's done a really good job of being selective in who they take out of the transfer portal and having guys that they do get out of the portal that are integral parts of their roster management.
Dan Wolken, USA Today. Eric, at what point in your life did you become comfortable with taking your shirt off in public? And do you feel like, this is now part of your signature that, you're almost expected to do something crazy when you win a big game?
I'm going to go back to like when you live in San Diego, like a lot of times you don't have your shirt on, especially if you grow up in Bird Rock or La Jolla and you're riding the boardwalk. But in all seriousness, it happened at Nevada. I don't know how or why. I was not planning on doing it the other night, but one of our hosts was kind of begging me even after the first game. He was one of the guys that walked us around. And so, I guess my emotions got the best of me. My wife's not always happy with that, but, it's not something that we plan on doing all the time. It just kind of, emotions run through you. And I guess you get a certain age and, you just kind of do it just because.
Right in front.
Hey, Eric, Bob Holt again, Arkansas Democrat. I think in Des Moines you guys were a +8 for those two games, average. I think you're +16 versus Illinois and Kansas, and then UConn's like a +9-3 on the season. I think they're the top rebounding team margin-wise left in the tournament. How do you see the rebounding matchup between y'all and UConn?
They're relentless on the glass for sure. I think that our teams had nights where we're really, really good defensive rebounding because that's obviously the key is to try to keep them off the offensive glass. That's one of the defensive themes that we're trying to create with our team. So you've got to be physical. They're a physical team. They send 4 to the glass almost every time. A lot of teams will send 3 to the glass and 2 back, but almost every possession they're sending 4 to the glass. So. We've got to do a good job defensive rebounding, and then we'll see how that affects our transition offense as well. But they're the best rebounding team we've played all year, and we played against some really good rebounding teams. Texas A&M's phenomenal rebounding team. Kentucky with Toshibwe is a great rebounding team. Auburn can rebound the basketball. But this is, the numbers say that UConn is the best offensive rebounding team in the country, and they have 2 centers that, in my opinion, is the best center combination in all of college basketball. They basically have a backup that's a starter on almost every team in the country, and he's a freshman and had a great year.
Hi, Coach. Joe Ruda with the Hartford Current. You guys obviously got off to a great start. The game against Creighton, and then you get into an SEC schedule is difficult. Can you reflect on the way that your team has transformed over the season and the things that they've dealt with, in terms of injuries and things like that?
Yeah, one of college basketball's most talented players, Trevin Brazile, is out with a knee injury, and I truly think he was one of the most versatile players in all of college basketball. We kind of built our team around him, and then obviously with Nick Smith being in and out of the lineup, this team has dealt with a lot, but we were fairly healthy the 2 prior years, and it was the same kind of theme where maybe we didn't start SEC play really, like we would have liked to have, but we just kept kind of grinding and looking at the next game on our schedule and trying to have belief, and here we are again. But it's a resilient team that's overcome a lot for sure. But I do think the SEC schedule, You know, it's hard. I think it's, in my opinion, it's the best college basketball and college football and college baseball and gymnastics and softball. But certainly in basketball, it's probably underrated a little bit.
Right here in the center.
Coach Kyle Kenson again. This one's on the European tour that you took this summer. With having such a new roster, how beneficial was that, and how much were you able to kind of look back during the season and kind of point to moments from that tour that you're able to kind of build off of?
I thought it was really beneficial when we started the year, because we got out, you know, to a great start, but then the injuries kind of hit. But I think anytime you can take those foreign tours that if you do them right, they can really build chemistry, they can build bonding. You know, the players get to see the coaching staff in a different light. So I do think that buy-in and trust, you can kind of get a head start if it's handled correctly. So I don't think there's any doubt that time, especially with so many transfers, you know, and not just the transfers, but out of our 12 players that'll suit up tomorrow, 6 of them are freshmen. So it's the freshmen along with the transfers, it did give us a little bit of a head start on bonding for sure.
Okay, back in the back.
John Marshall, AP. Getting back to your father, what would you say is maybe the greatest lesson you learned from him in all the years of practices and games and all that?
A lot, John, but competing. Like everything that happened in our household was competition. The pickup games growing up at La Jolla Rec were legendary with my dad, you know, just because, I mean, if we lost a pickup game and had an hour and a half wait on Saturday or Sunday morning, he wasn't real pleasant to be around. But everything that happened, you know, with my dad and I, whenever I was around him, being a competitor was kind of beyond belief. But you know, he wrote on my lunch bag, my brown paper lunch sack bag, that I would take the effort, energy, enthusiasm. He wrote that every day when he was home and not out recruiting or not on a road trip. So that's what I went to school with, and you know, to be able to work with him with the Timberwolves and watch his preparation, watch how he conducted practice, his attention to detail. I was lucky to watch him meet with so many other coaches in different sports. He was really good friends with Billy Martin, the former Yankee manager, and I was exposed to a lot of stuff that a normal, you know, kid wouldn't be exposed to, going on road trips when he was an NBA coach, being a ball boy and working the opposing team's locker room when he was a Cavs coach, and rebounding for people like Larry Bird. I mean, I just was exposed to a whole different lifestyle than you know, everybody else that I grew up with.
Adam?
Coach, Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal. Well, when you came in from Reno, why do you think you were so quickly able to put your mark on this program, and what do you want the image of your program to be from the outside?
I mean, I guess from an image standpoint, I wanted, you know, to be a program that people think wins. I hope that our offensive style of play is one that if a player watches, he would want to play in. If you're a fan, you would want to watch, although this year we go through some scoring droughts and maybe not offensively as pleasing as maybe some other teams, but we do play with pretty good pace. What was the other part of the question?
Why were you so quickly able to kind of put your mark on this program?
I mean, I just think, you know, like any program, you know, you go in with a plan, a short-term plan and a long-term plan, and then you try to think about how you can have sustainability in today's college landscape, whether it's a football program or a women's basketball you can build quickly because of the portal, and you're seeing first-time coaches do that this year that have had great success through the portal. And but then the key is, you know, how can you have sustainability? You got to have, like I said, a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And although obviously the most important thing right now is to get ready for UConn, I would be lying to say that we're not also recruiting today and didn't recruit last night and didn't recruit this morning and won't recruit tonight because, I mean, I don't know why it is what it is, but the portal's open while teams are still playing. So, you know, you got to worry about two things. Obviously, the most important thing is UConn, but there is still recruiting going on right now as well.